This is a patch of dirt. You've walked past thousands of them, probably stepped on a few. Unremarkable, dry, the kind of ground you glance at once and immediately forget. But somewhere in that dirt, right now, something has been sitting completely still for 6 hours, waiting for the precise vibration that means food is within range. It has no eyes that work particularly well. It doesn't need them. It has been engineering its environment so precisely that the ground itself became a weapon. Your patio may owe you an apology. Everything you think you know about predator and prey assumes movement. Chase, pursuit, speed across open ground. The whole drama of survival playing out in the open, where at least something can see it coming. The trapdoor spider didn't get that memo. It doesn't chase. It doesn't pursue. It built a door, went inside, and decided that patience was a more elegant solution than effort. And it was right. Its strike is the moment between stillness and capture, which lasts approximately 8 milliseconds. For reference, a blink takes roughly 150 milliseconds. You would blink nearly 20 times. In the span it takes this animal to go from motionless to done. We aren't living in a world where the fastest thing wins. We're living in a world where the thing that never moves at all wins more reliably than almost anything else. And it gets weirder. Meet Cyclocosmia and its relatives, the trapdoor spiders, a group so ancient, so unchanged, that looking at one is roughly equivalent to looking at an animal that was already perfecting this technique while dinosaurs were still a new idea. They didn't evolve into this strategy. They arrived at it early and then simply refused to leave. Evolution kept knocking, offering upgrades, better venom delivery, faster legs, wider hunting range, and the trapdoor spider essentially looked at all of it and said, "No thank you, the door is working fine." That kind of evolutionary conservatism is rare. It means the design was so effective from the beginning that natural selection had almost nothing to improve. The trapdoor spider is not a primitive animal. It is an optimized one. There is a difference, and it matters. Here is how the operation works. The spider selects a slope or embankment somewhere with stable soil and decent drainage. It excavates a burrow, sometimes up to 30 centimeters deep, lining it with silk so the walls hold their shape. Then it constructs the door. The door is the masterpiece, built from soil, vegetation, and silk, hinged at one side, fitted so precisely to the burrow entrance that even an experienced researcher can walk directly over one and see nothing. The camouflage isn't decorative, it's load-bearing. The door has to look like the ground because it has to be indistinguishable from the ground. Any gap, any irregularity, and the whole system fails. Then the spider goes inside and waits. But here is what most people miss about the waiting. The spider isn't just sitting in the dark hoping something wanders past. It has laid trip lines, fine silk threads radiating outward from the burrow entrance, like the spokes of a wheel buried just beneath the surface, litter. When something walks through those threads, the spider doesn't see it or hear it in the conventional sense. It feels the disturbance through the silk. The vibration travels down the lines, through the door, directly to the legs that have been calibrated by millions of years of selection to read exactly what that signal means. Is it prey? Is it a threat? Is it worth opening the door? The spider makes that determination in the dark, alone, without eyes that would help much anyway, processing mechanical information that most animals wouldn't even register. And then, if the answer is yes, the door opens. The math says an animal this sedentary shouldn't be this successful. But it is. And it's been this successful for an almost offensive length of time. The oldest trapdoor spider fossils place relatives of this group at over 100 million years ago. The strategy they were using then is functionally identical to the strategy being used right now, tonight, in a burrow somewhere in the soil of every continent except Antarctica. That is not adaptation in the way we normally celebrate it, the dramatic pivot, the radical reinvention. That is something quieter and in some ways more unsettling. Absolute confidence in a single solution, sustained across geological time. If you placed your finger near the trip lines of an occupied burrow, your finger would be seized before the nerve signal from your fingertip completed its trip to your brain. You would not experience the strike in real time. You would experience the aftermath, the grip of 8 legs and 2 fangs, and only then reconstruct what had just happened. On the bright side, the spider has no interest in you specifically. You're too large to eat and too much effort to fight. It will release you and go back inside and close the door, like nothing happened. Because for it, nothing did. But that's not the part that stays with arachnologists. This is. Some trapdoor spiders live for over 20 years. A female in Western Australia, part of a long-term monitoring study, was documented at 43 years old before she was killed by a parasitic wasp. 43 years in the same burrow, the same door, same technique, watching the world through silk vibrations, in the dark, waiting, for 4 decades. Standard predator models measure success in terms of energy expenditure versus caloric return. The trapdoor spider breaks that model almost completely. What it actually represents is a sit-and-wait predator taken to its theoretical extreme, a strategy that only becomes viable when the cost of building and maintaining the ambush site drops below the cost of active hunting. The silk-lined burrow solves thermoregulation, moisture retention, and predator avoidance simultaneously. The door solves detection. The triplines solve the sensory range problem. Each element offsets an energetic cost that a roaming predator has to pay continuously. The result is an animal with one of the lowest metabolic rates of any predator of its size. It can survive months without food. It doesn't need to be everywhere because it has made one specific location essentially perfect. Researchers studying optimal foraging theory use trapdoor spiders as a boundary case, the point at which specialization becomes so complete that the animal and its environment are effectively a single system. The spider didn't adapt to the dirt, it converted the dirt into itself. There is something genuinely humbling about an animal that looked at the noise and speed of the natural world, the running, the chasing, the frantic burning of energy, and chose stillness instead. Not because it was weak, because it understood, in whatever way an animal understands anything, that the most dangerous thing in any environment is the thing you never see coming. Humans built radar, sonar, and motion sensors to approximate what this spider does with a few threads of silk and 100 million years of refinement. We built entire military doctrines around the concept of the ambush, the concealed position, the patient wait. We called it strategy. We called it intelligence. The trapdoor spider was doing it before our ancestors came down from the trees. That's not a threat. That's a reminder that brilliance doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like a patch of dirt that is completely, unnervingly still. But if the trapdoor spider can turn patience into a perfect weapon, engineering its environment so completely that the ground itself becomes a trap, we have to ask, what happens when an organism takes that same principle and applies it not to a burrow, but to another living body? Because there are things out there that did exactly that. And the door they built is one you cannot see, cannot feel, and may have already walked through.